Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. I am your host, Tracy Preston, and with me is Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, Angela Sinclair, and of course, my husband, Todd Preston. Hey, everyone.
Hey. Hello. Hi. Hello.
Yo, yo.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be discussing a show that we did in Season 3, Episode 5, David Tyll and Brian Ognjan. I hope I'm saying that right, because it is the weirdest last name. But anyway, so just as a little refresher, it was 1985. Brian and David were lifelong buddies. David was married. Brian had a long-term girlfriend, and it's hunting season here in Michigan. So David and Brian were supposed to meet family and friends up at a cottage so that they could go hunting, but the last minute decided that they were going to head in the opposite direction, party, hang out with friends, and that was about the worst decision these men could make. They lost their lives in a field after a fight because they were drunk the whole weekend, being rude, crude, and lewd. And they ran into the worst of the small town, what would you call them? Not hoodlums.
Riff-raff.
Riff-raff. Or as Christine called them, what was it? What was it, Christine?
Banditos?
The Banditos.
The Banditos.
They ran into the country banditos and ended up being brutally beaten in a gang-style fight with bats, and then thrown into a wood chipper and fed to the pigs. So this was a crazy story, and had these guys just did what they said they were going to do, go hunting like they told their wives and girlfriends, they would have come home. But instead, their bodies have never been recovered, and the Duvals are now serving the rest of their lives in prison. So,
Okay, so I vaguely remember this because it's like a whole year ago now, I feel like. But didn't we kind of pick out that these guys weren't really ever intending on going hunting? They like kind of veered off from the get-go and they didn't bring any supplies and stuff like that. Was that this one?
well, they decided they weren't going to go hunting, but they had to pull off the ruse to the wife and the girlfriend. So they did take, I don't know what all kind of hunting clothes, but they did take their guns. So as far
But
as
did we surmise that this was like a little bit better, like a Brokeback Mountain situation?
I'm instantly thinking that.
But wasn't that, did we surmise that or did we not go into that?
we did not go. I think you brought up Brokeback, but I don't think these guys were Brokebacking each.
Oh, yeah, I think they were.
Actually, no, they were offending every barmaid in town and every woman they came anywhere near by rubbing up on them while playing pool and groping them and...
And your point is, what is that? Oh my God, I can't say it.
The guilty dog barks loudest? Is that what you're trying to say?
Protest too much.
Too much. Yeah, thou dost protest too much.
Well, if you were two, gay men in a small town,
compensate.
how are you going to present yourself to the public knowing that you're going to be there, being a couple in private? I mean, you're not going to want to draw attention to yourself. You're going to want to act like the people that you're
trying to
you're in.
All
macho and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just an angle. But
All right. You know what? No, let's go with it.
Based on everybody's observation of their behavior, they were just out hoeing around.
Yeah, because remember when they first got over into Mayo, they were hanging out in a bar. I guess it was like on a Friday night. And, the bartender was like, yo, dude, this isn't the place to pick up chicks. If you want to pick up chicks, you got to, meander on over to, this other bar over here. And so David Tyll was completely bummed. He was so drunk. He's like, nah, I'm not doing it. But Brian's like, well, I'm going to go. And I would really love to know what he what he could have possibly written on that note that he had the bartender slide the two girls at the bar, because they immediately got up and left.
Had to have been pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that piece.
Yeah. So, I don't know, Christine, let's put this one to you. What do you think he wrote on the note?
I still don't know. I don't know, but it had to be something super creepy.
I was hoping you were going to make up a good raunchy bit.
Oh, yeah.
Come
I don't even think I could probably be that rapey. I don't even think I could be that rapey. That's too much.
I would think it would have just been his hotel, his room number, and maybe a payphone number of that time. You know?
They left like they were creeped out.
Well, I would be creeped out too if I was sitting at a bar and some weird dude came in acting all weird and then handed me a note talking about, hey, come to my hotel room. That would freak me out.
Yeah.
I would get up and leave.
Here, if you drink these drinks, you're mine for the night. That wasn't very raunchy.
It sounds like you're projecting.
That was a nice try, babe.
I can't be raunchy either. Hun, can you do it? What you got?
Did it hurt when you fell from Valhalla?
You know, he had, if only you could see his face, because he's got the eyebrows going up
Oh, yeah.
and the whole winky wink at you.
Seduction.
Seduction.
Brow.
All right. Take it easy, guys. We're doing a podcast here.
Oh, yeah, we got to clean it up. Sorry about that. Yeah, so, you know, and Brian was just a little guy. He was just a little 5 foot something. He was just a little one.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I do think, and here's the thing, I don't think this was their first time, you know, chasing skirts around, because that seemed awful easy. Yeah, we're just going to veer off and go in this direction and let's go look for some chicks.
Yeah.
I don't think that's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, they were best friends. They hung out all the time, you know, so it probably wasn't their first time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, they also had to go all the way up north to chase chicks because apparently they didn't have much luck in their own hometown.
Or it's the one place they can get away with it.
They're passing out a lot of bad notes down south.
I was just gonna say, honestly, it just sounds like they probably couldn't get laid at a whorehouse, but it just, they don't sound like they've got much game. Just saying.
Yeah,
And excuse my language, sorry.
I'll go with that. You know, and then the thing that so we're just going to go back to what was their final night is, you know, like you alluded to, Regina, they're in the bar, they're playing pool, they're totally drunk, you know, being completely lewd, rubbing his junk on Barbara, right?
Her trunk.
He rubbed his junk on Barbara's trunk. And that was not very nice. No. And so she's like, yo, dude, he needs his ass kicked from somebody up in here. And then in come the Duvals, a couple of the Duval brothers. So, you know, and getting ready for the show, I was trying to look up, like, what is the mentality that you have to, like, fight in a group? Do you know what I'm saying? Because you got 1 or 2 brothers, that's all good, but they had to rally a couple friends, a couple of their other brothers. Because I think there were, what was it, Angela? Did they have 6 or 7 brothers? They had a lot of brothers.
Yeah, I can't remember the number, but there were quite a few. And
There were 7.
They were 7.
7, yeah.
Okay. You know, so
I know they had a couple of friends with them when all that happened. There was like 3 more people. They just were having a good time doing it, killing these guys, honestly.
yeah, and, you know, like I remember reading the material for the show as well, and Barbara was hanging out in her house after she'd already been told, hey, get out of here. You know, here's some beer, go away. And her and her friend hanging out, drinking the beer, all of a sudden hears ting, ting. What is that?
Yeah.
So they went to investigate, you know, sneaky out into the
How'd
backyard.
that go again?
Ting. Wait, here's another one. Ting. That's a lot. Like, how many times can you get hit in the head with a bat?
Once for me.
You got hit in the head once
Oh,
with a
yeah.
bat.
And
That's
I was
right.
out. Boom.
That explains a lot.
What?
Sorry, I couldn't help it. You left the door wide open.
I was going to say, you open the door, hun. So it's just like, and this guy, David Tyll, was still awake until it seemed like the very end. You know what I mean? Just over and over and over being hit. And I don't know how anybody could even be awake. And then, I was doing a little bit more reading and I came across kind of like a court transcript. And now what was written and what I had also seen was, they kept hitting David in the head with a bat until his head caved in. But in the court transcripts, that's not what happened. His head exploded.
Wow.
And then they attacked Brian, did the same thing with him, bashing him with the bat. And then also in the court transcripts I read, because remember they were talking about in the story, that a few people, they were all hanging out and the Duvall brothers were bragging about what they had done and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember us talking about the wood chipper in the show, right? I don't think we did talk about it.
No.
Yeah, you did.
You did at the end.
I did at the end? Oh, okay. Because these three people did testify that the Duvalls were bragging and that they did also brag that they pushed them through the wood chipper and fed them everything that came out to the pigs. And then another interesting piece I found was that they ended up getting rid of their pigs for some reason. Now, whether they slaughtered them to eat them, I don't know. Because, I can't imagine bone and all that kind of stuff stays in their system for long, but maybe that was a part of them, making sure that they covered their tracks, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Pigs eat everything and digest everything. So ashes to ashes, dust to dust kind of situation. There wouldn't really be any evidence of it. They digest everything except for metal, I believe.
Really?
Not that I'm a pigologist or anything,
Go
but,
eat metal, though.
but from what I understand,
I think they also do not digest teeth for whatever reason, because I know in other cases they've been able to identify people who have been eaten by pigs because of the teeth. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
I hope so. I hope that is possible, because you don't ever really want that to be a perfect crime, and that's as close as you can get to one.
Yeah, no kidding. And remember when you guys were talking about the Duvall brothers killing the cow of that one farmer, and then how much the price was? I kind of looked at the prices of, let's just say, a 1,500 pound steer. It's anywhere between $500 and $20,000, depending on the breed and how old it is. So that's just a little fact for you guys I wanted to look up.
You know what? I'm glad you did that, because I had no idea how much it was for a cow. I know that especially up here, right? People will go in and as a group and kind of all chip in on a cow. Like, hey, I'm going to get a half a cow. Can you get a half a cow? Or quarter.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody who's ever, I know people who've done that, but I've just never asked them how much it was.
Yeah, it's anywhere from $600 to like $800 for a quarter.
For a quarter.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a lot of meat, though.
That is a lot of meat. You gotta have a big freezer for that much meat.
Yeah, you gotta have the big old deep freeze for that one.
What I don't understand is how long were these people in town for? Because this is a lot of freaking trouble for two dudes to get into on a hunting trip. Like, is this like a month long?
It was 2 nights.
It was
a weekend.
It was a weekend.
Yep.
It was a
I think
weekend.
that's folklore, because none of that makes sense to me. I think those stories... No, what I'm saying is, I think the whole story about them going around doing this, doing that, blah, 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 that was a story the townspeople made up as to like demonize them, right? Because they're all kind of like rooting for their community. So the Raymond guy that ended up killing them and being charged and sent to jail for it, he was bragging to his son's girlfriend that he killed them over a dispute about a deer. So I find it completely outrageous that these two individuals just waltzed into town and bevied up all of this discomfort and all of this dismay, so much enraging a clan of men to come after them. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. I'm not saying that they were nice guys or whatever, but I just don't get it. The math is not mathing. It sounds contrived.
Making
Villains out of the victims. Absolutely.
That's possible. But, I think you also sort of have to keep in mind the mindset of some people in these small rural towns. And I'll give you an example. So when I was late teens, early 20s, I guess, I used to like to go to Renfest. And the one here in Texas, or the one in this area of Texas, is actually one of the larger ones. And I went with a friend to a bar very close to there. It's a very, very small town. And some guy hit on me, and I don't honestly to this day remember what I said to him, but I do remember that he got in my face and he cussed at me and then stormed out of the bar. But 3 or 4 guys in the bar put down their pool sticks and followed him and they didn't know me. They didn't know him. It's just one of those like macho, you don't disrespect the women in our town. And this barmaid was a friend of theirs. Not that it was a good enough reason for them to do that, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't sound like these people needed a whole lot of an excuse.
Yeah, they were just looking. Well, they like trouble. They like to fight. They like fighting and drugs.
And they don't like new guys being in their town, and they especially don't like these people that they don't know coming to town and harassing women that they may or may not have been seeing, or women that they considered friends.
Valid. That's what communities do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially these little teeny tiny small towns where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, we don't take kindly to city folk.
Yeah, like who the hell are you? And you're not even a real hunter. Look at you.
Yeah.
That's literally the attitude in most communities up here, the smaller towns. They're very protective of their own.
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from, Nina, because, when I was doing a little more reading too, in an article that I found, and that was a thing when we did the story as well, is like people couldn't remember what day it was. What day did we see them? Was it Friday? Was it Saturday? Was it Sunday? And they were saying in this article that nobody could really remember until the cameras started showing up. And then it's like, oh, yeah, we saw them over here. Oh, yeah, we saw them over there. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty interesting, too. Like, people could have been fabricating things. So I see where you're coming from that, Nina.
I just think, like, there is a story that says that they had a dispute over a deer. So why is it so inauthentic that they weren't there to do some hunting?
Yeah, like maybe we're just saying just because all they had was like I implied earlier, because they didn't have the accoutrement that they
we're talking about the 80s.
Yeah.
All you needed was a gun.
Yeah.
And then you just tied that shit to the top of the car with a rope.
Valid.
I mean, like,
they're the same without the accoutrement.
But neither of them had hunting licenses either.
Right.
Okay, so when they were city folks trying to be on this, I get it. Valid.
Yeah.
I don't remember reading anything about an argument over a deer, though. That I don't ever remember, because they never even, I mean, they had their guns with them.
Well, it's on the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, and it gives, a synopsis. And it was one of the witnesses that came forward against Raymond, who is the guy, Raymond and Donald are the ones that ended up being charged and convicted with their murders, right?
Correct.
And Raymond's son, he bragged to the girlfriend of his son about killing the other 2 guys. I can't think of their name right now, sorry. And that it was over a dispute of a deer. So perhaps in their city minds, they were like, they don't know they got to have permits for that stuff. And if you don't know that, then you certainly don't know the etiquette. They could have easily been standing on property that belonged to somebody else and killed a deer. And perhaps that person came out and said, yo, what are you doing on my property? You can't be here, and the scuffle started. So I think them not having what they need to go hunting according to what we think they should have had, well, then you need to take into consideration that they even cared about the accoutrement or any of that, and we just don't know that. But we do have a witness that says, yeah, he bragged about killing them because of a deer dispute. So I'm just saying, I think that's a probable thing too.
A different
Interesting.
perspective.
A different perspective, sure.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Nina, because I mean, honestly, you know, if they did have an article about that, it was brought up or whatever, but that is a very good possibility because I know from friends and other people that I've known, you know, if you shoot a deer on the property that you're hunting and that deer leaves that property and goes on to somebody else's property and you go look for it and you cross onto their property, that can definitely cause a dispute. And on many, many occasions have come to blows over it. You know, so it does make sense that that is a very good possibility that that happened.
Yeah, good find on that, Nina. And thank you, Angela, for the additional feedback on that because, yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, it happens a lot.
Yeah, and people are serious about that's what they eat off of. They're not just out there killing it to kill it. Like they're killing them to eat them. Like that's I mean, I have friends, I can tell you right now. They say, "Okay, hun, you better get your buns out there cuz we need 3 deer." Because they will, they process it. That's what they eat off of. So
It's food that they rely on throughout the year.
and it's not that they can't afford other meat. They like venison. It's free minus your license and your ammo and all that kind of stuff. It's the best meat for you.
Yeah,
Unless
it's very
you
lean
process
and
it
very healthy.
yourself, it's expensive.
Hey, hunting and actually getting the meat to eat is a very expensive process. So hunters usually do have money of their own before they even become hunters.
Yeah. I
They're
think
getting
though.
fined for prime money.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is good. I love venison. Being from Texas, deer hunt a lot. But back to that, I mean, that's a very, very distinct possibility, what Dina brought up. But on the other hand, I know that they did know that they needed a hunting license because apparently this was a trip that they made with the one guy's family often, annually, and they just decided not to show up.
Correct.
The family was expecting them there. But that doesn't mean that they weren't poaching deer either. And, as Angela and Nina both pointed out, poaching deer on someone else's property, in particular in Michigan or Texas, where people are very, very serious about their hunting, is cause for concern. You could definitely, I could see somebody getting shot or at least badly hurt over that.
Yeah, so isn't it crazy how the perspective of how this is looked at, including legally, and of course that's why detectives, there are gems out there that put all that shit together to make up a story, to legally tell it in court, to demand the sentencing. Because if you look at it, the guys that killed him were protecting their livelihood and their land and their individual freedoms and privacies, right? They were defending themselves, so to speak. So depending on how you sell that in court, it was
No, but those guys were bad dudes still.
Yeah,
they
took
that
that
they
cow.
did a lot of bad things.
So they weren't about community because they took that guy's cow.
Well, not only did they chainsaw that cow because they were having a barbecue, they also would tap into people's electricity and run wires to their house. These guys were just out to take whatever they could take.
All of those moral details are what make them evil and murderous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Christine's point, that whole stand your ground thing, if that had taken place in Texas, then they could make a case for the fact that they were on their own property and these guys came onto their property illegally. That wouldn't have gone to trial. Think about that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy. It depends on how you tell the story.
And what state you live in.
Yeah.
A lot of people that spoke out against them. They loved bragging about how they killed these 2 dudes. So they were ultimately their own demise because it was all those witnesses that came forward that I think kind of sealed the deal because there was no physical evidence that they did anything. So they had to go with eyewitness accounts.
Right. And the same thing. So no bodies, no truck, no belongings, and the bragging and the threats worked for, what was it, 18 years? I mean, they threatened Barbara Boudreaux over and over. They'd visit her every time the investigation was kicking up again, reminding her and reminding everyone else, pigs got to eat too. Keep your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these people were horribly frightened. I would be absolutely frightened.
Kind of like a hillbilly mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Michigan Banditos.
Full circle. So now I'm wondering, I'm going to go off topic because Regina says there's deer hunting in Texas. How big are your deer in Texas?
Everything's big in Texas.
Depends on what kind. Mostly we hunt this part of Texas in South Texas, it's, whitetail, and they're decent sized. But they have, in the hill country, there are axis deer. They're all different types, and some of them, larger than others. And depending on the deer population and how much we need to control it based on, habitat and their ability to, survive on the available resources, they'll have doe season where, some years you only can hunt bucks and sometimes you can hunt does as well, just depending on the population. And it's really, in a lot of ways, I know that, people that don't hunt probably don't really understand, but it's conservation in a sense when you have shrinking habitat and you have, deer that are going to ultimately end up starving if, you don't thin the herd.
Correct. And I was just wondering because, I was born and raised here, but I lived in South Florida for a long time, 17 years, I guess. And the deer down there, like compared to the deer up here, were just so tiny. I was like, that's a deer? So I was just curious as to, and I didn't know about the many different kinds. I don't know, Angela, maybe you know, or Todd knows. He's got a finger up.
Well, I can tell you right now, I just looked it up. Texas is home to the most white-tailed deer of any U.S. state or Canadian province, with an estimated population of 5.3 million. So
Really?
Texas has got some deer.
Wow. Color me shocked.
Deer and wild boar. So we have a lot of.
Interesting. What do we have up here? All I knew of was whitetail.
Elk, moose.
Well, we have elk, moose. Do we have moose? We don't. Do we have meese?
I don't think
Meeses?
we have. I don't think we
so.
have.
You don't have mises?
I don't think so. I've never seen one here.
But I do know people from Texas get into their, I guess there's a lottery up there for elk hunting licenses.
In Texas.
Moose are native
No,
to
in Michigan.
Moose are native to Michigan,
People
but
from Texas go to Michigan and elk hunt.
Yes, elk.
yeah.
Go ahead, hon.
So moose are native to Michigan, but the numbers have declined so badly after the European settlement that we really just don't have a population of moose in Michigan.
Interesting.
They went up further north.
You know,
Canada is littered with moose.
Canada?
the UP's got some.
Canada and Alaska, and yeah, no doubt that the UP definitely has some.
Hello, Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle lived here.
Yep, and we got plenty of squirrels too.
Yeah, we do. All right, sorry I side railed us for a minute. I just couldn't get the deer out of my head. I'm like, deer in Texas.
In
Ha.
Texas, they love shooting deer so much that they just have whole sanctuaries where that's where you just go and you just kill them.
I think when you think
it's
about
not exactly
meat, you
like
think about
that.
beef.
It's like
It's
a-
not like they're in a cage and you just come up and cap one. But they do have places that breed and basically ranches that raise deer to hunt. But I don't know how that's a whole lot different than putting out a deer feeder. I think it's cheating, but it's a whole other topic.
Yeah, and the salt licks and all that shit, bringing them in.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right.
Yeah.
I like salt.
I'll try to keep a salt packet in my pocket. Here, hon, I've got some salt.
There you go.
You're feeling low, feeling down. All right, what else do we have on David Tyll and Brian Ognjan? Anything that Any stones we need to flip on these guys?
Just in all seriousness, I know that, we were talking smack about them being jerks and being drunk and potentially having been, sexually harassing women. And let's just be clear that none of that is worth taking someone's life. I didn't mean, I just don't want anyone to think that I implied that they had it coming or I feel like they had it coming. Nobody had that coming.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, they were just, being out of control, drunk and all that, but nobody deserves. I mean, it's a good beat down in the parking lot. Yeah, go kick their ass or whatevs because they're disrespecting your local ladies, but I don't even know how in the hell they got these boys into the woods. I don't know. Maybe they did give them a nice little beat down in the parking lot, tossed them in,
Threw them in the back of a truck.
Threw them in the truck, and then here you take their keys, and then let's go out here. Like, how is that even a plan? Bring your bats, boys, because, right, he's like, hey, we need some help, yada, yada. But the brutality of it was unreal.
Yeah, granted, the brutality was bad. But the thing is ultimately, as a human society with respect for one another, we should know that even the simplest blow could be the last blow. So any violence at all, even though I stay on I Wish a Bitch Would, I stay there all the time. Thankfully, nothing ever happens. But at the same time, damn it, I get that. I get how cathartic it is. But at the same time, ultimately, there shouldn't have been any violence, which is why they are where they are now.
I think, wasn't there something about the guys were asking where they could get weed from, and potentially that's how they were lured out of the bar into somebody's vehicle or off into the woods?
I think it was them trying to maybe figure out, well, was it because were they looking for pot? Oh yeah, these guys have drugs. Maybe it was the big old ruse about, hey, let's go get some bud. We got plenty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody really knows because nobody really even said that there was a fight in the parking lot. They were getting a little mouthy to one another, I think, in the bar. And that's when everyone's like, oh, call the cops. We already did. We called them. They're on the way. And that's when Barney Fife was like, nope, I'm not getting in the middle of that because he was dirty. He must have been a friend of these guys.
Well, isn't that how they explained how they got them out to the field? Is because there was a fight in the parking lot and they injured them, and then they brought them out to the field to finish them off. Isn't that part of that story?
I don't recall that. Angela, do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember. I don't.
Well, how did they get to the field?
I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. I don't think anybody
That's
really
what I'm
knows.
saying, is some witness somewhere had mentioned that the guys were asking where they could get marijuana from, and that they left the bar with one of the brothers who had either promised to, share some with them or take them to get some.
Yes.
Oh, so see, that changes everything also. They lured them out there.
Yeah.
They lured them to their deaths. That's evil.
Well, and remember, and I wonder if David, Tyll, and Brian followed them out there with their Bronco, because remember, they were like super hammered.
Mm-hmm.
And, Barney Fife was like, all of a sudden, this Bronco comes flying up out of the ditch, and he didn't do anything because, again, it was a thing of his shift. He's like, nope, I'm not gonna touch that. I don't want to do all the paperwork. So maybe that was what it was. Maybe they smoked a little bud with him out in the parking lot. Oh my God, we got so much more. You guys, you've got to come and see this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's how they got him out there.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how the whole story, though, changes with every thread?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With every small choice, with every little detail.
Yeah, because these brothers were not, well, I mean, they were running their mouths pretty good, but to their friends, their girlfriends, and they used to also beat their wives. You better be quiet. Bam. And so they were until they finally got sick of it. But still, these guys are unpredictable. Chainsawing cows, doing whatever they want, being banditos.
Pegging people left and right.
Pegging people.
Yeah, baby.
I also think there's a lesson here, because we, as women, we tell our daughters, we tell our friends, if you're going somewhere, you're traveling on the weekend, whether you're traveling with girlfriends or whatever, let somebody know where you're going to be. I think that this kind of illustrates that applies to men as well, that, you should at least be forthright with one person about where you plan to be so that if something does happen and you don't make it back, law enforcement and your family know where to start looking.
Very true.
All the people just got to keep it balanced. If you keep shit balanced, every once in a while you can wild out, but you got to remember the flip side. Be aware of your surroundings at all times, and don't be stupid. There are evil people out there in the world. Unless you're one of them, don't be prey to them.
Yep, mind your P's and Q's.
We're forgetting, though, this was in the 80s. I mean, like, how would you know where anybody went? It's not like we know nowadays.
Yeah, people were more naive, and they didn't have the technological advances we have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You needed a time and a payphone to call somebody and let them know where you're at.
Yeah,
Right, but you had to be honest. So you just had to be honest about where you were going in the first place, is my point.
True.
Yeah, you got to have a buddy at work. Dude, listen, we're going to go chase some girls. Don't say anything. We should be back on Monday for work. This is the area we're going to.
Yeah.
Right, because they did reach out to an old school chum. They were supposed to go visit, remember? So it must have been Friday night when they were drinking in the bar. Then they were like, okay, let's go find what's-his-butt. And ended up pulling into some dude's driveway, completely hammered with the map upside down, trying to figure out how to get to their friend's house. So, why is it that their friend didn't start waving a flag? Maybe just thought, oh, maybe my friends just didn't show up, but they had a plan to show up.
I don't know. Guys don't normally do that. You get stood up by one of your friends when you're a dude. You're like, whatevs.
You're a dude.
You're a dude.
You're unreliable.
I'm going to chase skirts on my own.
And there we go, the quintessential 80s vibe. Thank you, Todd. You're a dude, whatever. Dudes will be dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who cares what kind of fuckery they're off getting into? Oh, goodness.
I mean, come on. You're going to be, that's karma. Like, you're cheating on your spouses. You're off having a good time. Like, if you meet your demise, isn't that kind of like consequences? I mean, you do bad things happen. I don't know.
Oh,
Don't be crazy.
Valid.
So their wives were like, that's what you get. That's what you get.
Yeah, well, it was David's wife who, this woman did not waste any time. She was immediately, she's like, Monday, what? Nope, Sunday night or Monday, she went bananas. She did everything she could do. She got in touch with newspapers and news programs and getting posters up and all that. I mean, like, this woman she was doing her job as a good wife. I mean, it was really her that made all that stuff happen.
I think she wanted to find him so she could kill him.
I'm going to get you, you son of a bitch.
No, I'm getting the last word, bitch.
That's right. And here, you know what? And here's the other thing, too, is that, she was always like, oh, he always called me. And the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, he was always keeping in touch with you because he'd already been cheating on you before and you busted him. Call me. I need to check in. You better check it in, son. So I'm thinking David had been busted before. That's what I'm thinking.
I think you're probably right. And I think that's why she was so eager to get him back, because she was like, dude is in trouble.
We already talked about this. And this is your last strike, buddy.
Boy, you better be dying somewhere.
Or dead. Turns out he was.
Or
Yep.
He was.
was a fact. I bet you she did feel bad. She probably still felt really bad.
Yeah, initially I don't think she was. No, I think she was hot as hell.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I just think back to myself, like when I was that age and young and married, I was, and especially in the age before cell phones, right? It's like if they're late coming home and they're out with their buddies, it's like you're pacing the floor waiting for them to open the door so that you can just jump their shit, right? I mean,
Absolutely. As soon as they walked in the door, you ripped them a new asshole.
Yeah. And see, then it took me a little while to figure out that the way a guy's brain works is that if they're out with their buddies and they're having a good time and they know they're going to be in trouble, they're not going to call you because their mindset is, well, I'm going to get my ass chewed out one way or the other, so I may as well just have another beer and enjoy myself and take the ass chewing when I get home.
Yeah, because
That's good
it's
logic.
coming anyway.
Yeah, because they start thinking,
So
as
I
of
had
right.
to learn that if you meet them at the door and say, "Oh, honey, I've missed you. I'm so glad you're home," and you kiss them, and then, take them to bed but the next time they come home earlier. Just saying, for you young ladies out there that may be like
Look,
dealing with that.
if you want this, or you can see your way out. I'm not putting up with that shit. That's retarded.
Ew.
I can't with that. We're too old for that. We're too old for that.
That sounds a little Mrs. Cleaver. Oh, Ward.
Here's your drink, honey. Welcome home.
Yep.
Fuck that. No, you're a jerk.
I'm just saying, that manipulation door swings both ways is all I'm saying.
It's a psychological advantage. I don't have that kind of control.
Of course, I don't do that, and I don't tolerate that. But it's just an experiment I did once.
And it
Did
worked?
work. It did.
Really?
But ultimately, being in a relationship with somebody that I had to do that with was a deal breaker. So
I feel ya.
Yeah, if you can't trust them, then there's no point in being together.
It wasn't even that. It was just the whole they're
Disrespect.
inconsiderate and they're out getting drunk and
Yep.
leaving you at home. That's just not okay.
Selfish.
Oh, I thought she said shellfish.
Christine can't have shellfish.
Oh, she's allergic. Hey, did you know that there are some cats that are allergic to people?
Say what?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
How do you know this?
I saw it on the Google net.
Well, what happens to a cat?
I don't know.
Well, what are their reactions?
Probably coughing, swollen eyes, itchy eyes.
A cat has a people allergy.
Yeah. It's true.
I have a people allergy some days. I'm just
Ditto. All right, guys.
Makes you wonder why we became nurses, doesn't it?
It does. It's a conundrum.
We love and empathize with people so hardcore. We just can't keep that kind of momentum up. So we have to come in, beep bop, come in, take care of everybody, and then beep boop, go take care of ourselves for a goddamn minute. Yep.
All right, now that I've talked to you all day, fixed you, did this and did that, I'm going to go in my cave. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, bye-bye now.
I think the key takeaway is don't go off without telling people where you're going. Don't go to a small town in Michigan and act a fool and disrespect women. I don't think these guys really had any good radar on them to even understand what you're doing, where you're at, and the shitstorm that you are stirring.
Yeah, because even if the other storyline that is proposed out there is that they were poaching a deer from somebody else's property, and it was all a scuffle about a deer, and that's how they ended up being murdered, they still weren't aware of their surroundings, and they still weren't being honest with someone at home to know where the hell they were. So they were all around, both sides were making real bad decisions.
Or the moral of the story is that men shouldn't cheat on their wives because they could get murdered.
You know what? I think that's the best one.
Either by their wives or by strangers.
Exactly.
Oh, bitch.
Walk the straight and narrow, damn it. All right, guys, I think we should wrap this up before we hit another rabbit hole. I like the rabbit holes, though, but they're fun. All right, so...
That's what happens when you put a bunch of ADD people on the same call.
Exactly. All right, well, thanks, everyone. It was fun chatting that up. We got some good theories. I think we kind of figured it out a little bit.
Several different ways.
This...
Away from movie-like to the other side was at fault.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming back and listening. We hope you have a great week. And we will see you back on Monday for Malice in the Mitten. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, bye, bye.